Welcome to the Pulse. I'm Israelite. This afternoon, President Akufo-Addo describes as unfortunate public perception that his government is doing very little in the fight against corruption, as he explains why he was hesitant to announce replacement for the former Auditor General Daniel Yao-Demolovo.
The one who was succeeded in, who came to succeed in by natural order in the hierarchy there, has not demonstrated sufficient quality, independence of view.
Environmental health and sanitation officers in the Eastern region warn of an escalation in COVID-19 cases if they are not resourced. We hear from them and get an update as AME environmental officers bury bodies of deceased COVID-19 patients. JoyNews checks reveal the $36.5 million Commander Sugar factory in the Central region is rusting away despite assurances from government to revamp the factory. We're here.
No, sugar factory. Or I musu pade taxpayers money and I been akwa hebusel baby no da be the madis wo ah won wie na aban fofo abada no so watu na adwo dem akona abanda da ogbe no.
We hear from the transaction advisors on what is hindering them from starting operations. We are coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle on your digital terrestrial TV because we're free to air. We're also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Thanks for choosing us. We are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Stay tuned in.
Hello, my name is Evans Mensah, and you can relive all the fun and excitement on Top Story, Newsnight, and of course, Ghana Connect via podcast. All you need to do is to log on to my Joy Online/podcast. Search for your favorite show and relive the moment. Joy 99.7 FM, your radio for discerning listeners.
Joy 99.7.
So in our very first story, the Eastern region is likely to record more COVID-19 cases if adequate measures are not put in place to resource environmental officers. That's according to some environmental officers who say they are compelled to use tricycles, otherwise known as aboboya, and mini trucks to convey COVID-19 infected bodies to cemeteries for burial. Acting District Environmental Health Officer for Denchembo, Ya Akwa Late, says this is due to the lack of her services to perform such tasks. Mr. Akwa Late joins us now via Zoom with further details. Thank you very much, Mr. Late. Now, what exactly are the concerns that you have?
Your viewers and listeners. Yes, I speak on behalf of our environmental health officers. I'm the national president for Environmental Health Officers Alliance Ghana. So I speak as the national president, but not the district environmental health officer.
All right.
Yes, our concern over the years is that when we first recorded COVID-19, when the Health Minister, Honorable Mamenu, first made a written statement of COVID-19 in Ghana. Then environmental health officers who are working under the local government service, for that matter, the Metropolitan Municipal and District Assembly, also mobilize our forces in able to curb the spread of the disease. Along the line, we were neglected or sidelined in some of the issues, but currently, we are frontline and backline health workers. So we are into the health education, the social distance, the hygiene protocols, because we are hygiene officers, and co. When it comes to the barrier, we are at the back. So when somebody gets infected, isolated, quarantine, and the person loses or expires, environmental health officer then comes over to do the disinfection and the barrier. Per the Public Health Act 2012, Act 851, it has mandated environmental health officers, that's the section 50 clause 1 and 2, has mandated environmental health officers to bury any corpse. If there's time, I can quote the law and then make my point. Part 5 says environmental sanitation. Section 50, clause 1 says a person commits an offense if that person, A, unlawfully hinders the disposal of the dead body, or B, without lawful authority, disenters, dissects, or mutilates a dead body, or C, being under a duty to cause a dead body to be disposed of, fails to discharge that duty. Subsection 2 says a person who contravenes subsection 1 is liable on a summary conviction to a fine of not more than 50 penalty units or to a term of imprisonment not more than 3 months. I'm making my reference on 50 clause 1C, being under a duty to cause a dead body to be disposed of, fails to discharge that duty. Yes, we have laid down our tools, although this law says we have failed. But reference to section 118 and 119 of the Labor Act 2003, it has stated that if you are in a workplace and you realize that what your supervisor has given you will cause a health hazard to your life or a risk, you should report to the supervisor and leave that premises. So, if you hear us our call now, we have laid down our tools simply because the government of Ghana, for that matter, the Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service have failed to give us the needed personal protective equipment, such as nose masks, Wellington boots, goggles, coverall, scraps, apron, the chemicals that will be used for the disinfection of both the body before the body is moved into the coffin and the head that will take the body along the communities to the cemetery. When the body is being removed, a chemical must be discharged in the head before the head leaves the cemetery.
All right. Mr. Akwalate, have you made these concerns known to your authorities?
We have.
And what are
At
they?
the onset,
Yeah.
at the onset of the COVID, we wrote an observation letter to 4 ministries and agencies. That's the Ministry of Local Government, the Ministry of Health, the Jubilee House, that's the Committee on COVID-19 at the Jubilee House, and the Office of the Head of Local Government, who is our management. And I was personally part of the team that distributed all these letters, and then we wrote our names at the reception.
All right. Mr. Akwalate, you say you are the national president of the environmental health officers. So essentially you speak for all the environmental health officers in the country.
Exactly, sir.
And you say you've laid down your tools.
Exactly, sir.
So does this laying down of tools apply to all the environmental health officers across the country, or it's just in a particular region?
Yes. What we have realized is that at the regional level, let's take AMA, KMA, New Durban North. They are the regional level. They have communicated to us that they take delivery, or the regional health directorate supply them with these PPEs, because most of the regional hospitals are referral centers. So the rate of COVID-19 death occurs much at the regional level, the Range, the Kolibus, and Co. So they take delivery from this. But we, those who are at the municipal and district assemblies, don't take the delivery from any of the district directors of health services. What we see is that when the body comes, the district directors call us for a meeting with the family, and what they have is what they give us. So we have to wait. So we write a memo to the district chief executive for them to provide some of the things that are lacking for the burial. And it takes so much days and months before we get the money, because we were under the Ministry of Health, and in 1994, ex-President Ronald's time, he made a call that Environmental Health Division at that time, our name was, we were working in the division at the Ministry of Health, to be moved from the Ministry of Health to the Ministry of Local Government because of decentralization.
So I'm asking this question about the impact or this strike that you're saying that you have embarked on, because here in Accra, and I want you to hold on for me, because here in Accra, environmental health officers in the Accra Metropolitan Assembly have today buried bodies of 8 persons who died from COVID-19 at the Woodome Cemetery. The burial team, led by Environmental Health Director Joseph Asitanga, followed all the COVID protocols. He has been explaining the processes to our reporter, Mami Esi Nyamiche Fomsing, who was embedded with the team. So we'll go to him, and then I'll come back to you and take your thoughts on what appears to be a fractured front and how you think you're going to succeed, considering some of your colleagues are going ahead with COVID burials, even though you say you have laid down your tools. So just do hold on for us.
All right.
Since the third wave started, how many bodies have been buried from COVID-19?
Let me say, since the third wave started, in a week, we don't bury less than 5. Yes, so we even bury Saturdays too.
Okay.
So if we calculate weekly in the month, that will give us the figure. I have not taken my data yet. I'm yet to compile the data for the second wave. So I don't want to guess. But I'll give you those numbers in due time as we are working. We never stop burial. Since 2019, early 2019 that we started, up to date, we've been burying. It's only that at times when the numbers are, the family gets stigmatized. So we always try to black out the media small, do the work on our own. When we see that the numbers are coming, we bring you in to help educate the public. That is the essence. Sometimes we bring you in.
Okay.
Yes.
So today's exercise, tell us about it, how many people you've taken out and all that.
Yes, today for instance, we have taken 5 from Rich Hospital. We've buried them. 1 is there, we are going to cremate that person. 2 is coming from Ga East, making how many? 8. So that is only for today.
Right.
Yes. And tomorrow, Saturday, we have 2 to be buried again.
Okay.
That is the day they fix because of their religious denomination. So sometimes we accept them by their request, then we do it for them.
So what makes the one you're going to cremate different from the ones you're burying?
Yeah, it's a request by the living person who passed on. During his lifetime, he might have put in a written document down that when he passes on, his body be cremated or handed over to government. But this kind of death, we cannot hand the body to government because we don't know the dynamics of the virus. So therefore, once he requests for cremation, we do it for them. Right. We have been doing cremation every week. Last week Funeral Home, Osu Cemetery, we do the cremation all the time.
So just take us through it. What is the process when these burials are being done? Well, how do you start? How do you end?
Yeah, as the protocols demand, when the person passes on and we are informed that the person dies, immediately the person will come to record his body in our office. Then we start the process from there. Bear in mind, the law do not permit us to give the bodies to the family members. So when the person passes on, we tell him we do a much of counseling to the person that this is a pandemic, and therefore the pandemic is handled by the government. So we have to handle the body. But we'll do everything possible to help lay the person to rest. So from there, at the mortuary level, the bodies are kept at a different section of within the normal bodies. So when the day for burial is coming, we go there, we disinfect the whole area. And the bodies we are taking, we do disinfection. We disinfect the vehicle, the heads that come, the coffin, even the grave, we do. The people who are to do the handling are adequately protected with the PPEs. You, the media people, before you have access to come and join the program, we must protect you. Yes, and then the burial is what we are doing now. We finished laying them, we are doing the covering. After the covering, when we finish all, disinfection will take place again before we leave this place. Yes.
All right, so we're going back to Akwa Latte, who is also a member of the environmental. He says he speaks for all environmental health workers. So you're still on the line. You heard Mr. Asitanga talking about the processes, and it appears that, well, it's like business as usual for everybody else, but you're saying that you're embarking on a strike. How do you reconcile that?
Thank you very much, Israel. You see, we live in a country that people have taken sides. They, as I said earlier on, because Accra has Kolebu as a referral center, has Rage as a referral center, has 37 as a referral center for COVID. The death toll rises, and at the regional levels, at the 16 regional level, they have communicated, the state coast has communicated to us, New Government North has communicated to us that they take their personal protective equipment from the regional level.
All right.
So the regional health directorates supply them as and when bodies come. But at the district, municipal, and district levels, no regional or district directors supply us. What they do is that they don't supply the quarantine booths and go. What they give us are the coverall, the white overall that we wear. The rest are being purchased by ourselves or the district assembly that we work. So that has been the problem. For them, AMA can continue to bury because they have the supply. They have the source that they keep supplies of these PPEs, the coverall, the boots, and then the co. But at the municipal and district levels, we are lacking these materials.
All right. Now, I want you to hold on. We're getting on to Zoom and to speak with the National Coordinator in charge of COVID burial and disinfection. She also doubles as the Metro Public Health Director, Madam Florence Kuchi. Thank you very much, Madam Florence Kuchi. So, I don't know if you've been listening to the conversation I've been having with Mr. Akwalate. He says that they're deprived. They're not getting the PPEs and the tools to work, and so they've laid down their tools. He says he's a national president of the environmental health officers. What do you have to say about all that he's had to say?
Okay, thank you very much. And let me use this opportunity to say good afternoon to our cherished viewers. I will not want to talk much on what he says, but what I will say is COVID-19 case management is a circle. When a person is infected with COVID-19 and gets to the hospital, case treatment starts. When you start with case treatment, there's a cohort there. The cohort is either you recover and go home, or you die and then you are buried. Immediately, a person passes on with COVID from the last office and the body is moved to the mortuary. It's now become the duty of the environmental health officer to give the befitting and a dignified burial to the deceased. Formerly, officers were not given the needed resources for the burial. As it stands, I'm sure some assemblies are still having issues with it. But what I would tell those assemblies that are not having the needed logistics is they should not work in isolation. We are supposed to work in collaboration with the Ghana Health Services, that is the District Health Directorate. If you are faced with a COVID barrier and you do not have the necessary logistics, you talk with your district directorate, then they will provide you with the necessary logistics. Because Accra, it is the Ghana Health Service that give us our PPEs that we use to bury. That is why we haven't laid down our tools. So maybe at their level, they do not have the requisite logistics. So he may be talking for his district, but not the entire country, to the best of my knowledge. Thank you.
All right. So how do you believe this issue can be resolved? Yes, even if he's speaking for his district and some other districts around the country, how do you see us addressing this challenge?
So what we will do is, I will plead with my other colleagues, they should try and contact their health directorate. Let's take it from there. We should not work in isolation. Right. PPEs are not brought to the assemblies. all PPEs are sent to the district health directorate. That is where you can get your coverall, your Wellington boot, your gloves, your goggles, and all that. Because when we are going to bury, one person uses not less than 5 tools. We have the coverall, we have the N95, we have the goggles, we have about 3 sets of gloves that we wear. And then we have the parazone, or what would I say, the chlorine. The zero, then we mix it into 2 bases. We have the 0.5 chlorine mixture that we use to disinfect the bodies and then the other articles. Then we have the 0.05 chlorine that we mix to disinfect ourselves after handling any article or after the burial. So if other assemblies are there and they are not having the logistics, I think they should try contacting the their health directorate, and they will be of help to them. Reason being that COVID logistics are not sent directly to the assemblies. It is sent to the Ghana Health Services at the various district health directorate.
Is it also fair to say that if the environmental health officers don't have the adequate logistics, they can just decide that we're not going to bury the corpses until we have them?
That is what I'm saying. Maybe in that district, they do not have. If they do not have the logistics, PPEs to use for the burial, their health is also important. Their health matters. Because what we do is, we try as much as possible to put in place the infection prevention control measures. And by putting in place the infection prevention control measures, you must first of all protect yourself before you can protect your neighbor. So if I am handling an infected body without the necessary logistics, then it's better I get it before I do it. Even if you give me half, it is not up to. When you give a burial team only coverall alone cannot conduct a burial. You need Wellington boot, you need N95, you need goggles, you need gynecological glove, you need surgical glove before you get the utility glove to put it on top. Aside that, you need chemicals, you need a knapsack machine. So if you don't have all these things, you don't have to put yourself at a risk.
Yes.
You need to get these things before you can conduct the burial.
I also want to find out, these overalls, I see that they're being disinfected. Are you disinfecting them to reuse them?
No, please, they are not being disinfected to be reused. They are being disinfected before they can dawn off. We call something dawning and then dawning off.
All right.
Before you dawn, it means you are putting on all your preventive tools before you can carry out the burial. After the burial, you have to dawn off. And by dawning off, you have to disinfect yourself with the 0.05 chlorine mixture to ensure that what you are going to remove, there are no pathogens on them. You are free. So to keep yourself safe before you can dawn off. Because during the dawning off, if you are not properly disinfected, you can also pick some pathogens during that period.
All right, now I'm going to put this question to both of you, Madam Florence Kuchi and Akwa Latte. I've been reading some literature about infections, picking up COVID-19 infections from deceased or dead bodies. And it appears the risk of transmission is quite low. Do you have any contrary information? I know that in the initial stages of the pandemic, everybody else was concerned, and we appeared to be quite fixated and ensuring that in disposing of dead bodies, there's a certain protocol. Do you think it's about time we revisited the protocols?
Yes, that is why formerly we were not even allowing family members to follow out to the cemetery.
All right.
But now you can see that when we are going for burial, some family members follow us to the site.
All right.
They even put some things in the grave. But formerly it used not to be so.
So that's the point. Do we need to relook at the protocols, and do we need the environmental health officers to be completely kit in the overalls and everything else, or we can reduce the amount of PPEs that we're using for the exercise?
The issue is, it's an infectious disease. Studies are still coming out. A lot of issues are still being revealing. As we talk today, some are saying it is even a bacterial infection. Others are saying it's a viral infection. Others are saying it's a zoonotic infection. Nobody is yet to come out with the actual cause of this virus. So it is better to put on the infection prevention control measures. As the saying goes, prevention is better than cure. Nobody knows what will happen. Virals continue changing and changing. Now we are hearing the third trend
wave.
is what? The
third wave of COVID-19
the Delta variant is very, very fast in transmission. But nobody has come out with what causes the Delta variant. The incubation, we know the incubation period is still the 7 to 14 days. But the causative organism, nobody is yet to come out with the causative organism. So it's better we protect ourselves.
Madam Kuchi, you know, as we're speaking, we're watching on screen right now. There's a visual on screen. I believe you can see it too, where we have the environmental health officers in fully kit up in their PPEs, and yet there's a gentleman who's walking around who is bare-chested, and he's not even wearing nose mask, and he's giving you directions, or giving the environmental health officers direction. I'm struggling to understand what is happening.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. You know, some of those people, they are not part of the burial team. Maybe they could be working at the cemetery or something. And some people too, they could even be some family members, because some of the family members are so adamant. As much as you want to control them, if you don't take care, they'll even beat you. There are times environmental officers are beaten at the mortuary and they leave bodies and go. Then we look for reinforcement before those bodies are picked.
All right.
So some of those things we see there, they may not be environmental health officers. It's just a family member who still want to say, yes, whatever it is, I must take part in the burial.
All right, and I want to put the same question to you, Mr. Akwa Latte. Do you think it's about time the literature on the COVID-19 protocols as far as burial is concerned is revisited?
Israel, I think you made a comment or a suggestion or a statement that it seems the infection rate of COVID dead bodies are low. Israel is not low. Look, the COVID-19 dead bodies are not embalmed. When I say embalming, they are not injected with formalin and formaldehyde.
All right.
The normal bodies that you see around when someone passed out, because the law mandates environmental health officers right from the hospital to ensure that every dead body, every corpse, pass through the right channel from the mortuary straight to the cemetery, because we also control the cemetery per the Public Health Act, Section 50. So the infection rate of COVID-19 bodies are never low, because still the virus lives in the body. And because the bodies are not embalmed and are only put in the body bag into the morgue, because the body bag looks like a leathery rubber plastic thing, water is impermeable. Water in the corpse cannot come out, or fluids in the corpse cannot come out, and the fluid outside cannot enter. So the body is taken into the morgue as it is in the body bag. And because the cooling system or the morgue or the fridge cannot have a direct effect on the skin of the corpse, so as and when the body stays longer in the morgue, it tries to decompose, making it highly infectious. So infection rate for COVID-19 bodies, as people may say it, is not low.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Akwa Latte and Madam Florence Kuchu, for joining us for this conversation. Meanwhile, we've also been speaking with some family members who of the deceased who are casting doubts that their relatives died of COVID-19. So that's another conversation, but let's hear them.
Mami we say COVID na kuno. Me because COVID na kuna ka ne mana e ba be hwe wo mo hospital wonum ni nyina no ke wo so mo quarantine wo adan ye jan kwala ni nyina no mo asapie ene se nyina so e benya bi so ahu ti si atra wi ase na se mo yesa ya pa ya
sure, no, I think say and then 10 days.
Okay, but you understand that this is the COVID-19 burial.
Meaning when you COVID-19.
Okay, you disagree she had COVID-19. Yes. Why do you say so?
Because say onya COVID enka nipa ni e won nchen ansa na menua ni efrem no enka ye nyina mo isolate yen. But here lies the case. Menua no yare mo ye no kidney mo say kidney failure and menua ni fremu mo say mo person mo dey call special ward. Within some few hours mo say wa contradicted to COVID. Right. When ya yare no yen ye won nchen mo jaye ma ye koy nurses for koy Inti na yare no real and I say real. Ye ba mortuary honum. Omo attendance for mo hwe mortuary no. Omo say PPEs, but omo ba later on omo nya PPEs. That shouldn't be. This is not the country.
What do you suspect killed your sister?
I cannot tell.
All right, so that's a conversation for another day, but let's still stay with COVID. We're taking a look at the country's COVID-19 situation, and we're going to the Ghana Health Service dashboard, COVID-19 dashboard. On the African front, or before we come to the African front, let's get to the national COVID-19 figures. And as you can see right there, we have 550 new cases, and we have 112,928 cases in all cumulative cases from when we recorded our very first case. And then the deaths are at 945 as we speak. The number of recoveries, we're looking at 105,622. And then the active cases seem to be going up again. It came down, it declined up to 6,004, and now it's going up again. We're now at 6,361. COVID is still real. We need to pay attention and continue to observe the protocols. And let's look at the regional figures. So Greater Accra continues to be the epicenter of it all, with 3,521 active cases of COVID-19. And then it's followed by the Ashanti region, which has 1,006 cases. And from the Ashanti region, we're looking at the Central region, which has 362. And then the we have 341 cases, another region with 349 cases. Now, on the African front, the WHO says more than 7.3 million cases on the African continent, and 184,000 people have sadly lost their lives. In its latest COVID-19 update, African Regional Director for the WHO, Matshidiso Moeti, says the situation is worrying because more countries are reporting more deadly variants, which are causing devastation in the region.
Cases on the African continent, and 184,000 people sadly have lost their lives. After several weeks of steep increases, we're now starting to see a leveling off of the third wave on the continent taken as a whole. However, the situation remains very fragile. More countries are reporting variants of concern, with the Alpha now in 44 African countries, Beta in 39, Delta in 30, and the Gamma in 4 countries. While it took 8 months for Alpha to spread to 30 countries, the Delta has done so in half of that time, only 4 months, and is now the dominant variant in most countries. Vaccine coverage, unfortunately, remains low, with only 2% of Africans being fully vaccinated against COVID-19. But there's hope as vaccine shipments pick up pace, with the COVAX facility delivering almost 10 million doses to Africa so far in August. That's 9 times what was delivered in the same period in July. We are hopeful that COVAX shipments will keep ramping up to reach 20% of Africa's population by the end of this year. And coupled with deliveries from the African Union and bilateral deals, WHO's hope for target of vaccinating 30% of people by the end of the year is still within our reach.
Dr. Matshidiso Moeti has also been speaking on the outbreak of Marburg and Ebola in the region. She says urgent steps are being taken to address the issues.
To prepare for further increases, capacities to manage cases need to be urgently stepped up. The outbreaks of viral hemorrhagic fevers, Marburg and Ebola, at a time when COVID-19 cases are rising in a number of West African countries, highlights the multitude of challenges countries are facing in parallel to the pandemic. It also points to the critical importance of sustained investment in preparedness and the resilience of national health systems. The case of Marburg reported in Guinea is the first such case to be reported in West Africa. As WHO, we've assessed the risk of spread as high at that national level and across the African region, considering the porous borders and fragile health systems in the countries. We will hear more about the situation and the strong response Guinea has mounted from the Honorable Dr. Lama.
All right, so from cover, we're moving on to something a lot more sweeter. That's sugar. Even though we're not talking about sugar, but the factory that produces sugar. And the $36.5 million Commander Sugar Factory is idle. After 5 years of commissioning, this dims Ghana's dreams to produce sugar locally and reduce the importation of the commodity internationally. Now, figures from 2016 show Ghana spent $200 million to produce sugar annually. The unpleasant news is that $200 million to import sugar annually. The story is that the factory that was supposed to produce sugar here in Ghana is rusting away. Machines are corroded and the roofs are torn. The factory, which is just 5 years old, looks almost 20 years old. Jojo Kobna visited the Commander Sugar Factory and reports that the people are appealing to government to operationalize the factory.
This is the factory that is supposed to be producing sugar for the country, but it has been idle for 5 years. The roof is rusty and worn out. Before we get into the details of the current state of the factory, let's trace how Ghana found itself in this situation. It may sound basic, but Ghana had a dream to start producing sugar locally. Hence the rebirth of the Commander Sugar Factory. The old factory, built in 1964, became defunct about 30 years ago. A loan of $36.5 million was invested into the factory. Resuming operations at the factory was a perfect opportunity to do things right this time around and cut down on Ghana's importation of sugar.
So as I speak, every single cube of sugar, every single grain of sugar that we eat here in Ghana is imported from outside. Commander is going to change that. It is my honor and my pleasure to declare the Commander Sugar Factory duly inaugurated.
Excitement created the commissioning of the sugar factory in 2016.
The inauguration of the Commander Sugar Factory will provide jobs. It is estimated that in full production, this project will provide direct and indirect jobs to an estimated 7,300 people.
Unfortunately, the facility shut down in July 2016 because of inadequate sugarcane. It was due to reopen in October 2016, but never did to date. Since then, there has been a flurry of promises to get the factory running.
Because some here, into so here, Emma factory to me the amount of land we need for the sugar, the type of sugar we can grow here, all those things were not properly organized. I think our organization, our organization, and also the between strategic investor and also it me about Bisomu. Nanche, over TBB Papa free menum, and
but it took 2 years before the government announced a new investor for the sugar factory.
This factory, like any other factory, will keep on needing ongoing investment, ongoing retooling, and if that is done, definitely it will keep running and it will bounce back.
When are you starting work?
We are waiting for the final agreements to happen. After that, we'll start working.
It is past the second week of August, and the Commander Sugar Factory remains closed. Currently, the facility is in terrible shape. A comparison of the factory in 2016 and 2021 shows the factory is deteriorating.
There sits the Commander Sugar Factory in its rusted glory. It has been abandoned for so many years. It is not producing sugar. And there are so many youth in the community needing jobs, and they have none.
The plates and rakes that would carry the sugarcane for crushing have rusted. The new investor would have to spend more money to revive a new factory that was shut down just months after commissioning. A journey to the roof with a drone reveals further deterioration. Parts of the roof are rusted, worn out and torn. The roof is riddled with holes, and with the onset of the rains, it is obvious the rains seep into the factory. A group calling itself Concerned Citizens of Komenda is upset. Their convener, Samuel Awuja, is dismayed.
I quite remember about last 2 years, the Trade Minister, Honorable Ahunkalinsi, said the traditional area should look for land. We've been able to do that. We've been able to secure about 3,500 acres of land, and that is even far beyond the expected 2,000. So as for the land we already have, it's now left to the government to come and operationalize. So anybody who talks about sugarcane and land issue, it's a non-starter. They shouldn't even go there, because we have land available, and then the sugar plantation was also done. You know, it takes 6 months for the sugarcane to be ripe for the factory. When the government came in, it's been 5 years.
The land reserved for the cultivation of sugarcane around the factory has been left fallow, and along the beaches of Komenda are people yearning to be employed once the factory is reopened. Joseph Eshen is unemployed. His friends, who could not stand the pressures of unemployment, have migrated to Accra and other parts of the country, hoping to get non-existent jobs. Sharing their disillusionment and absolute displeasure, the residents pleaded with the president to fulfill his promises.
What time no kwisi na sisi we yedwuma sugar factory o musu pa dey taxpayers money and abanu akwohwe bose we baby no da ba dem adis wo won wie na aban fofo abada no so watu na adwumo dem akona abanda da obo no watu na adwumo ho na adnis wo na adno rust aban wadi ehwemo bebre agofo adu na aban wadi ehwemo bebre alba bet na the promise akohwe promise ngotin Everybody know the promise I could shoot and say I could find what you especially commander for what you as the commander sugar factory about to that man. I bet no what Jim one cast on crowdy. This I didn't one day say Aben Biba. Never I did this one more yeah. Aben for bar. I don't continue. You know what you had no waste. This is Ghana, Damana Wabadama. Yadity. A Kawana, this is Ghana. This is Ghana, a Busia called Bob and Yada Bay, Muntujuma, Yama, before Abama. No swan was swordman, the mere may I listen. Why you want Casa? On my fix your sugar factory, man. Nay, Rose.
Now we are doubting them so much, and we don't believe them. The fact is that for a first term of office, 4 years, and a second term of office, all this was strategic investor. It has been given to strategic investor. At least, of course, we are young guys here, and such promises have been coming and gone, and we are not seeing anything. So for now, we don't trust them.
Sugarcane farmers are also disappointed. The secretary of the Sugarcane Farmers Association, Aze Kwaku, says his members are now frustrated because they have to give all the harvested sugarcane to Akpeteshie distillers at heavily discounted prices. This is because the supply of sugarcane is more than the current demand.
One answer no water. One answer one dozen. Kumebi, no water on credit basis. And tell my pharmacy is covered there also winning. And say, Oma, marketing your correct into Wutu, I shouldn't to go. Says the ano yedi yo, pa, yes, indeed, or no, is that, is yo. Or you're no years in there. It may be I need Kia. Na aduma ejuma wode ejuma bi sia anka na expect na anka government butum obey obotum aboa ma factory no farmer no factory no otum we dimu ma farmers nso yotum yeska.
They have more raw materials than ever anticipated, so they do not pay the farmers on time. Revival of the Commander Sugar Factory would not affect them in any way. This is because they can always get the molasses from the factory to distill akpetashi. No crushing of sugarcane, thereby reducing their burden. So even though akpetashi distillers are benefiting from the abundant supply of sugarcane, they still want government to make the factory operational. The Member of Parliament for the Commander Edna Iguafo Ibrahim constituency, Samuel Atta Mills, asked the Trade Minister in Parliament when the factory would be operationalized.
The Ministry of Trade and Industry, working in collaboration with its transaction advisor PricewaterhouseCoopers Ghana Limited, is in the process of concluding the conditions precedent for the activation of the concession agreement with a selected strategic partner, Park Agrotech Limited, to commence operations at the Commander Sugar Factory. Government has a right to terminate the agreement. But be that as it may, we are hoping that they will conclude and finalize the fulfillment of these conditions conditions precedent by August this year. And then once that is done, it paved the way for us to require the company to commence activation of the company before the end of the year.
Until the factory becomes functional, it will remain a museum of monumental wastage and failure. Jojo Kobna, JoyNews.
All right, so how do we get the factory back up and running? We'll be speaking shortly with Professor Aaron Tete Asari, Head of Department of Molecular Biology and Biotechnology, School of Biological Science, College of Agriculture and Natural Sciences, University of Cape Coast. So thank you very much. We will be coming to you in a bit, but transaction advisors on the agreement to revamp the Commander Sugar Factory, PricewaterhouseCoopers, have revealed that the main issue preventing the commencement of work on the project is how to get some tax incentives for the new investor. Here is Vish Ashiagbo, senior partner at PwC, and he spoke on the Super Morning Show earlier today.
When the minister went to Parliament at the end of July, he made reference to the fact that there were some conditions precedent that we needed to work through in order for the effectiveness of the contract. However, in this case, the most significant issue that we are working to deal with is a request from the strategic investor for certain tax incentives. And again, I think the minister put this in the public domain back, I think it was February, when he was going through his vetting. So the issue is that in the early stages of this operation, there will be insufficient raw material locally. So there has to be some provision made for importation of raw sugar into finished product at the factory. What we're working through now is the tax incentives act that will go with the importation of that raw sugar, but also plant and machine and other inputs that will allow the factory to operate effectively. In summary, that is the main issue we're working through so that we can try and reach agreement with the investor and things can take off from there.
All right, so Professor Aaron Tete Asari, you've heard what the transaction advisor has had to say, but for you, I'd want to find out what you feel is the way out. What's your what solutions would you advise?
Yeah, thank you very much, JoyNews TV. I'm happy to be invited for this interaction. Commander Sugar Factory, as we all know, was commissioned in 2016. And in 2015, as a research scientist, I led a team realizing that there will be a need for planting material. So we initiated a project to look at rapid way of multiplying sugarcane planting material. In fact, the shortfall of the establishment of the sugar factory was because the government did not engage research institutions initially. And so there was no provision made to look at planting material when the factory was commissioned. However, we took it up and then developed sugarcane planting material in vitro in the laboratory, and then established them on the field in order to look out for protocol for rapid multiplication to generate adequate planting material for farmers. Lack of planting material is a key issue right from the onset of commissioning of the factory. So that was done, and in 2017, we had a press conference to showcase as a university that it is possible to multiply sugarcane planting material in vitro and then establish them on the field nursery for farmers to assess and to establish sugarcane farms and plantations. And well, usually this went out, but we didn't have government engagement on any front until 2019, when government invited some investors. And so Park Agrotech Ghana Limited, that was mentioned, happened to be one of the contestants. And the manager had then contacted me. We have talked at length, look at the way forward. So the university was strategically positioned to generate planting material, offer technical advice or expertise for generating planting material for farmer access. So this is what we have done, and that's what has been our contribution. But there are political face of this whole factory issue. And since it is a national asset, which is owned by government, it's only government that has the mandate to give direction as to making the factory accessible to the investor and as when. And as is mentioned, there are documentation that has to go through. But I think that things has been so slow. At the time when even the investor was introduced in 2019, we are in 2021. As at that time, even the cost that would have gone into refurbishing the factory was no joke. And up to today, 2 years after down the line, and up to today, we have not been able to establish sugarcane plantations. So we still are around the same point. As a university, we have established a nursery at a cost, our own cost, but still awaiting for government directives and for documentation process to be over so that the investor comes on board and to enable us to carry out multiplication of the planting material. Multiplication of planting material can take us 2 to 3 years before we will be able to adequately generate material for adequate farm establishment. So the way forward is in phases, and government has a key role. If we don't have clear-cut direction, it will be extremely difficult for anybody to execute any plan.
Essentially, you're saying that the University of Cape Coast has positioned itself to support this factory by multiplying the planting materials or having the technology, putting in place the technology that will help multiply the planting materials and make the sugarcane available. But work has to start on it like now.
Yes, that's the point I'm making. Plant has its own lifetime. The sugarcane takes between 10 to, the sugarcane plant material that we have 10 to 12 years, 12 months, that is a year, before they'll be ready for processing. But then the cane for planting, by 6 to 8 months, they can be harvested and then used to establish the plantations. Right. So in all this, you realize that there's time at every phase. And so when we delay so much, it affects the subsequent progression. So for instance, if by December, before the investor is given authorization to operate, then it means that it's in next year before planting material, even in the laboratory, could be achieved, before it will go to field. So there are a lot of processes involved and time involved.
So you're also saying that without your options being explored, there's no way that this factory can be up and running or can get the raw materials to produce sugar in the next few years?
Well, the other option is to import the sugarcane juice and then process sugar. But then that will not also meet the expectation or the purpose for establishing the holistic purpose for establishing the sugarcane factory, because one aspect is to create jobs. And if you import the juice and then process, only a few people can be employed. And so our smallholder farmers and the youth who are waiting with expectation would have missed up on the objective for setting up the factory.
All right. So again, let's come back to the options that you're providing to government. You'd want government to approach you, give you some assistance so that you can probably cultivate the sugar cane that you're developing in your labs.
Yes, the point here I'm making is that a sugar factory cannot run all alone by itself or by investor. It needs a research partnership. And this is what the university has been doing. So currently, the University of Cape Coast has a memorandum of understanding with the investor, Park Agrotech Ghana Limited, because we have been part of the process in developing the proposal and defending the proposal itself. So the university played integral role, for which I'm the lead person.
All right.
And so, the whole issue is that when documentation are completed, because nobody can go ahead and do anything. Even the nursery that we have now is at our own cost, and it has a lifespan. So I'm always getting worried, because by the end of this year, the whole material will then run down. If we don't have clear-cut way for Commander Sugar Factory to expand or to get the material that has been established now, replanted on expanded fields.
All right. Thank you very much.
Then we also need the other aspect. We need a commercial laboratory, tissue culture laboratory, and so you realize that you need time to build, a state-of-the-art tissue culture laboratory purposely for multiplying sugarcane planting material. But without documentation process, the investor will also not be able to, invest anything in that direction, because it's business, and it's business that is governed by government policies, and policies can change. So if we don't have the right policies in place to secure the investor's investment, then there's no way out. You will also, start anything.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Aaron Tete Asare, Head of Department of Molecular Biology and Technology at the University of Cape Coast. Still ahead in the bulletin, President Akufo-Addo describes as unfortunate public perception that his government is doing very little in the fight against corruption, as he explains why he was hesitant to announce the replacement for the former Auditor General Daniel Yao.
I believe the one who was succeeded in, who came to succeed in by natural order in the hierarchy there, has not demonstrated sufficient.
Stay tuned in, we're back in a bit.
Hello, I'm Dori Nando. You can catch up with all the fun on the Cosmopolitan Mix and on all our shows via podcast. Just go to My Joy Online podcast and search for your favorite show and relive those moments all over again. Only on Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Now, Nigerian scientists are calling for more support to be able to help the nation deal with its rising food insecurity situation. Insecurity in rural farming communities, poor rainfall patterns, and use of archaic methods of farming are said to be the main causes of the deepening food insecurity situation. Joseph Obukugapo visited there and filed this report.
Nigeria is, of course, one of Africa's biggest countries. It's a population of more than 200 million people. Well, a number of those residents are considered food insecure, up to 15% of them, meaning that they are unable to afford 3 healthy square meals on each day. Well, that's not the only challenge. Nigeria spends more than $5 billion importing food annually, although it has the capacity to produce a lot of those foods. And for a lot of the residents here, the COVID-19 situation has compounded the problems.
That time, if you went to buy beans, you get it 150, you will not even finish it. But now you buy 200. Not be all the places safe giving us beans as 200 now. Some places you get 200 naira beans, you will not even belly food. You join it with 100 naira bread too, but you will not take you till evening now. So now beans higher than before.
Too much of expensive are here in Nigeria, like food item. Now you can see at later on the food that we are buying it, a cost of such a rise of 500 now is so cost. So we are just managed with everything.
Well, I visited the Karimo market in Abuja, in the Abuja state, right here in Nigeria, and the traders and consumers here attest to the challenges with raising food on a regular day and the heightening cost of food as far as Nigeria is concerned.
Please, may the government help our life for this market. Even this market we are selling, everything just hide money. Like beans now, before we are selling beans 450, 500. Now beans be 850, egusi 750. Red beans is 1,000 naira. So this Nigeria get one kind, make una help us for this Nigeria. Our children will suffer for this Nigeria.
Well, Nigeria has a huge scientific community. There are agricultural faculties across all the universities in the 36 states in Nigeria that are working to help deal with food insecurity challenges.
One of the reasons for the shortfall in our understanding as scientists is this insect pest constraint, which reduces cowpea yield on our farmers' field, resulting on the average yield of less than 1 ton per hectare. Through genetic engineering, it is possible to transfer genes across species to guarantee protection against insect.
Obviously, these food insecurity challenges being faced by residents in Nigeria and other parts of Africa require holistic, homegrown solutions in order to help tackle them. From Abuja in Nigeria, my name is Joseph Opoku-Gakpo for JoyNews.
President Akufo-Addo has for the first time admitted he was constrained in naming a successor to the former Auditor General, primarily due to the circumstances that led to the exit of Daniel Domolovo. The president, in March this year, directed the Auditor General, Daniel Yao Domolovo, to proceed on retirement. President Akufo-Addo, who has been speaking to corruption-related issues, says the country is still paying for the circumstances that led to the retirement of the former Auditor General.
I think we're all aware of the circumstances in which the first Auditor, when I say the first Auditor General in my time left office. It seemed to presage
some disputation between him and my government, between him and myself, and somebody had to act in his place. I felt that it was important that that person should be given sufficient time to develop the confidence of the population, rather than to rush to an appointment which could also have given the impression that that is the reason why we acted against the First Auditor General, to remove him from office and plant somebody perhaps more pliant or more accessible. I believe the one who has succeeded him, who came to succeed him by natural order in the hierarchy there, has not demonstrated sufficient quality, independence of view. For instance, he's responsible for something that is unheard of in our history, the 12 statutory reports that have to be compiled and placed before Parliament in the year of Parliament. This is the first time it has ever been done. Even the much touted Auditor General before never managed to do it. This one has done it.
Now, Ghana has improved its score on the latest Corruption Perception Index. The 2020 report released by Transparency International saw the country score 43 points out of a possible 100, a 2-point increase from 2019's 41 points. Despite the high level of perception in the country, President Akufo-Addo says he has done more in resourcing anti-graft agencies than any other regime.
The highly politicized atmosphere in which many of these allegations are raised in Ghana, in which some of the civil society organizations are privy to and complicit in, where it's the line between them being independent commentary and being politically related commentary is very, very thin. And in many, many cases, there are lines that are in fact crossed. There are civil society organizations that mounted campaigns to make sure that I did not continue to sit in this seat. I cannot overlook that when I hear them continuing to attack my government and its works, that these were not people who were in any way either objective or sympathetic to what I was doing. So if I tend not to pay too much attention to what they say, I don't know. For myself, I think that a lot of objective people will appreciate the position that I take. There are people around this table, Dr. Akwete is one of them, who know about my attitude to the effort that one of my predecessors, the late Professor Mills, made to revise the Constitution, and never agreed with the methods by which the whole undertaking was taken. I don't believe that the Constitution is the work of the President of the Republic. For the President to decide in the comfort of his study that he is satisfied that there must be a review of the Constitution, and that by that process engage the process of constitutional review. I think the Constitution is the work of the body politic of Ghana, and if anything else at all, it should be at the very least the Parliament of the Republic at any one given time that will stand forward to say that these are matters which we think should engage the public attention so that there can be a collective. But for the President to say he's satisfied that there ought to be a review and therefore engage the process, I thought it was flawed. I said it to the Constitutional Review Commission when they had the good grace to invite me to give my views on the matter, and I have not changed my view. Having regard to the difficulties that our country has had to arrive at a multi-party constitutional dispensation that has endured, and the Fourth Republic is the one that has endured. We saw the First Republic, which had its own problems, authoritarian rule, one-party rule. We had the problems of the Second Republic. We had the problems involved in the Third Republic, all of which were short-lived. To have a republic that has lasted nearly 30 years in the context of our history, to change the constitutional arrangements that have assisted this durability, we should be very careful how we go about it. I feel very strongly on that point, and that is why I have not lent my support to the idea of this wholesale review of the Constitution. The one area which I felt required action, was the one that I put before the country, which was the extension of multi-party democratic rule to local governments.
The Parliamentary Select Committee on Education is giving government high marks for procuring equipment to the various technical universities to train students. According to the Select Committee, the evidence on the ground in the pursuit of technical and vocational education by government is encouraging and should be supported to augment the industrialization drive of the country. Speaking after a tour of the various technical universities, Chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee, Kwabena Amankwesiama, asked parents to consider sending their wards to the technical universities to learn skills to boost Ghana's industrialization drive. Richard Kodonyako has more.
The Cape Coast Technical University was the third place the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education visited. The committee, led by its chair, Kwabena Amankwesiama, was happy with the infrastructure support, machinery and equipment installations that have been done on the various campuses of the technical universities. Kwabena Amankwesiama wants parents to depart from what he calls the grammar schools and embrace technical and vocational education because it holds the key to the future development of the country.
The government needs to be congratulated for bringing in such a large number of equipment in the mechanical and electrical sectors of polytechnic university education to train our technical students. It's encouraging. This is what we want to see. We want to reduce the unemployment rate within the youth. The teeming youth don't have jobs because of the concentration on grammar schools. Now that this realization has come that we have to invest in technical education and make sure that our youth also becomes innovative and creative and do what is the needful so that they can employ themselves and totally reduce the unemployment rate.
Deputy Ranking Member of the Select Committee, Dr. Clement Apak, says he's impressed with government continuity policy on the technical and vocational education.
I'm impressed. And I think that the decision to convert the polytechnics to technical universities, initiated by the previous NDC government led by John Dramani Mahama, is certainly paying dividend. I am happy because the current government has also continued. And that is what we expect in the national interest. Cape Coast Technical University is one of the few that had to fight hard to meet the conversion criteria, including WAR Technical University and then Bolga Technical University. And given how hard they had to fight, I would say that they've done very well.
Deputy Minister of Education in charge of TVET, Giftichum Ampofo, says government was retooling the entire educational sector, making TVET a central pillar, starting from the basic school.
When I say at all levels, from the basic level to through the secondary level, and then finally to the tertiary level. At the secondary level, that is the technical institutes at the second cycle level, we facelifting the whole of TVET by improving infrastructure, building workshops and laboratories for them, retooling the workshops with state-of-the-art equipment.
Director General for the Commission of TVET, Dr. Fred Chea Samoa, talks about the revolution that's currently happening in the TVET sector.
Leading universities in this country don't have them, and it's also an appeal to our youthful population that our technical universities and technical institutes are equipped to give them all the skills they need to be able to be successful. We will go to Cape Coast Technical Institute and you realize that they have similar equipment. So technical education starting from the pre-tertiary level should be able to flow through to the tertiary level and should be relevant to the industry. And that is what government is doing as a promise.
Vice Chancellor of the Cape Coast Technical University, Professor Joshua Danso Ususache, was upbeat if government could continue with the progress in the sector. In providing more support, the technical universities would be a great catalyst for the growth of industries in the country.
I think that I need to first appreciate government for what it has done. I have said it, and I say it over again, that when we were in school, we didn't have such equipment. If we had had such equipment when we were in school, we would have done great things. So I appreciate the government for all the support that has been given, for all the equipment that has been given. It's a great day to be a student, to be able to use this equipment for teaching and for learning. I wouldn't want to cloud what I'm saying with an appeal to government. Having done all of this, it's great and we appreciate it. It's only that we need a few more staff to help us do what we're doing and do it better.
The Parliamentary Select Committee moves to other technical universities to assess the developments there. Richard Kwejenya-Akon, Joy News, Cape Coast.
Right, so we're returning to our story on how Nigerian scientists are calling for more support to be able to help the nation deal with its rising food insecurity situation. And Joseph Boku-Gakpo, who put together the report, has returned from Nigeria and is going to be telling us what it is that Nigeria is doing. So, Joseph, tell us about the situation with food insecurity in Nigeria and the West African sub-region and what is being done.
Well, Israel, the Nigeria situation is a little bit more worrying because a number of things are fueling that particular situation, as we found out when we visited places like the Kano State and the Kaduna State in Nigeria. And, there are huge concerns about insecurity. The main point being that farmers step out to the farm fields and then all these bandits, marching cattle, then get onto the farms, destroy some of the foods, and in some of the instances, attack some of the locals in the areas. That's one of the main points that we are told is creating a bit of the insecurity situation. Incidents of kidnapping,
right, we're having a challenge.
Which is not allowing farmers to step out of the insecurity situation.
Right. Go ahead, Joseph.
Yes, Israel, just to round up on that quickly, issues having to do with climate change and the negative impacts of it when it comes to the rainfall patterns was also really highlighted. And then the COVID-19 pandemic, another, because then at a point in time, Nigeria is one of those countries, just like a lot of countries in West Africa, that's very much dependent on food imports, spending about $5 billion importing food annually. And during moments of lockdown and all, and logistical challenges, moving food across the world, all of these virtually conspired to then make the food insecurity situation there a bit more severe than the nation had seen previously.
Now, how does the Nigerian situation compare with Ghana?
To a very large extent, very much similar. Here in Ghana, we've had concerns about difficulty in getting access to inputs like fertilizers, and that has been raging for a number of weeks, something that is to a certain extent attributed to the unavailability of funding in order to purchase this. But to a certain extent, government has been blaming the COVID-19 pandemic and making the point that that is making it a bit difficult to access and import fertilizers into the country, because then a lot of the companies that import the fertilizers are not exactly doing as much of it available as possible. So that's obviously something that compares with the Nigerian situation. There have been concerns about the rainfall patterns to a certain extent. We are very much dependent on rain-fed agriculture instead of having irrigation facilities. Again, that's also a similar situation that you find in Nigeria. And Ghana, again, is also very much heavily dependent on food imports. Our annual food import bill stands at around $1.5 billion US, although for a lot of those foods, we have the capacity to produce very much locally. So the situations are similar, not just in Nigeria, not just in Ghana, but across the ECOWAS sub-region, which is how come the push is happening, that in terms of dealing with some of these challenges, a sub-regional approach is what is needed rather than individual countries doing some of these things on their own. And those were some of the things that we sought to explore when we went on that particular visit, in terms of what countries like Nigeria are doing that other nations could possibly replicate to help deal with their food insecurity challenges.
What is one of those things that you think that Ghana should be replicating?
Well, investment in the sector, more investment in the sector. We all know that to a very large extent, farmers make the point that they get some subsidies when it comes to fertilizers and all, but then the support that they end up getting is not enough. A lot of the farmers are subsistence folks who only grow only as much food to feed themselves, and throw off a majority of those because then there are concerns about post-harvest losses. So one of those issues that are being propounded have to do with the fact that we need more investment in terms of the logistics associated with farming just beyond the production itself. And then the conversation happening around improved seeds that farmers need, because then in Nigeria, for example, at the Ahmadu Bello University in Nigeria, they've developed improved seeds, including cowpea seed varieties, which have increased resistance when it comes to pest attack. And then they're developing what they call the teller maize that has improved capacity to resist the impact of drought. And for a lot of the scientists in Nigeria, these are some of the solutions that they are exploring that Ghana and other West African countries could also possibly take advantage of. Israel.
All right. Thank you very much, Joseph Opoku Gakpo. And we're taking a break here on The Pulse to bring you Sports Station News.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel Atto. You can catch up with all the fun and inspiration on the Joy Sports link here on Joy 99.7 FM, together with all other shows over and over again. It's very simple. All you need to do is go to myjoyonline.com/podcast and relive all of those fun moments over and over again. Joy 99.7 FM, your radio for discerning listeners.
Joy 99.7.
Hi, my name is Nathaniel Atto, and it's time to bring you some sport here on Pulse. Now, if you're under the age of 35, you're a footballer, specifically a striker, and you're able to score 40-plus goals in one of the top leagues in Europe, then you sure will be the toast of many top clubs as well. That is the story of Lewandowski, Robert Lewandowski, who wants a new challenge away from his club Bayern Munich, but the club has valued him at more than £100 million. Lewandowski, who turns 33 on Saturday, is happy at Bayern, but wants to secure a move to another top European club before the age of 35. Now, the German champion's valuation is designed to keep him there until the end of his contract in 2023 and is likely to price the FIFA and UEFA player out of his departure. Let's get on Zoom now and speak to Joy Sports' Oreku Ampofo, who's been monitoring this situation and has got thoughts on it. Oreku, good to have you here on the show. I trust you're well rested after all the jet lag. I could see you look refreshing and refreshed.
Yeah.
How you put yourself in the shoes of Robert Lewandowski now, and tell me how frustrated he will be at the realization that this could just not go the way he wants it.
Well, I don't think he would be too frustrated. He might be, just a bit.
Obviously, Lewandowski has had, a bit of a glut. He's, overfed with German football action, like you said. But how much of a risk as well is he taking moving away from a place that gets him to function at 200%?
Well, it's a big risk for his career. And from the player point of view, I think that...
Start doing the probable projections. England, Manchester City, this has become more of a cliche now where Manchester City are always doing the spending. Chelsea, they seem to be fine up front. Not sure about Manchester United. You go to Spain, Barcelona have a void there. I'm not exactly sure if they'll be interested in him. In Italy as well, we're not sure. In France, we're not too sure. Where would you likely want to see him go if he has to go? And in recent times, Europe has been very particular about fair play and about, the financial part of fair play, where you have players being priced in these rather unimaginable, regions, or within these rather unimaginable, projections. Now, what's the likelihood that, Bayern could, for instance, back down a little bit? Even considering that they have done a long-term plan to want to make the most out of the player.
Well, as I said, Bayern a really tough side to negotiate with, and you can see that from their recent dealings. It takes a lot for them to budge when it comes to player negotiations, and they always find a way of making the most out of those. Taking Perisic and Coutinho on loan winning the Champions League with them, and then just letting them go after and not signing them. So they do know what they want. You can look at the Leroy Sané situation, for example, waited for his contract to go down before, signing him for half the fee that Man City initially asked for. And so it's tough. It's tough. And I think that there's no pressure on them. That's the main point. They don't have to sell Lewandowski. They don't need the money right now. And so I think that's why they are sticking with that 100 million. If you really want him, then come for that 100 million, because they know that if they get that 100 million, then Project Haaland next season looks even more viable now. And so I don't see them giving in, especially because even if Lewandowski goes, who do they bring in as a short-term replacement whilst they try and get Haaland next season? Or do they try and go for Haaland next season or this season or not? So it's a lot of questions rather than answers. But at the moment, I honestly don't feel that Bayern are pressured to sell Lewandowski. And I don't think Lewandowski is so unhappy that he would pressure Bayern to leave. So I do see both parties maybe, coming together, whether it's a whole plot for a contract extension or, for increase of salary or whatever. But I do see him staying with the German Giants for this season.
Well, as I always say, let's see how it goes. Oreku, thank you very much. And would have you step in this space tomorrow, right? Catch you later then. All the best. All right, so Oreku Ampofo there with analysis on Robert Lewandowski, who clearly is the finest striker in the last season in Europe with his 40-plus goals from the German Bundesliga with Bayern Munich. He wants to get a new challenge. Is that possible? Who will be able to grab his signature if that is possible? Well, these are conversations we'll continue to have. There's a lot more sports to consume later on when we bring you Prime Sport, and also later on, Fan Zone with Hans Mensah and so back to you, Israel.
All right, thank you very much, Nathaniel Atto, for bringing us sports on Pulse. And we're back to wrap up. Before we go, JoyNews wishes to correct some information earlier put out regarding an alleged information leakage by some staff of the Petroleum Commission. The Energy Minister, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, accused the staff of the Commission of leaking information to some players in the sector who are in turn using it against the government. But instead of the Petroleum Commission, JoyNews inadvertently said the Energy Commission. We wish to apologize to the Energy Commission for any inconvenience caused them. Well, up next, we're bringing you LTS. Do stay tuned in, and thank you very much for watching The Pulse. I'm Israel.
Hello, I'm Dori Nando. You can catch up with all the fun on the Cosmopolitan Mix and on all our shows via podcast. Just go to My Joy Online podcast and search for your favorite show and relive those moments all over again. Only on Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Made up for power when you're not brave. Made up for power when you're not brave. Made up for power when you're not brave. Oh, to make a bad day. Oh, baby, I didn't take. Someone made up for ya. So free as you never, with the American concussion. No matter now, too. They were back to see. I'm sure when you are when I'm here at your church. Me who and I mean what to be. I would be the full power you'll never. Me the full power you'll never. Although you may be forever.
Wow! I'm hoping one day I become a musician. I don't know when that is going to happen though. But hey, you're welcome to Let's Talk Showbiz here on the JoyNews channel. My name is Doreen Arvio, and today I am hanging out with this young, energetic, talented, handsome man. His name is Chris. Now, Chris was part of Mentor. He moved to Nigeria. He was part of Project Film West Africa. After, we were all waiting, see him do his thing in Nigeria, and now he's back here at home with us. I'm sure he has a long story to share with us. He has so much to share with us, and this is where I ask again. Welcome back to Ghana.
Thank you very much.
How have you been?
I've been all right. I've been good, actually, really good. I've been really good.
Different, like.
Yeah.
Should I say you look all grown now?
Yeah, matured, I guess.
Matured is the word.
It's it's been amazing. It's been an amazing couple of years. I look very different because I'm rebranding and everything. So now we've rebranded from the name Chris to Kwakwa, which is my middle name.
Oh, Kwakwa.
Yeah, Kwakwa.
Oh.
It's my middle name right now. So it's been a whole lot going on, you know. But I'm back.
Why the name change though? Why the rebrand?
Okay, so I figured that we needed to do something really authentic. When somebody hears Kwakwa, the person should be able to turn their head and ask who Kwakwa is, you understand? It's an authentic name, it's my middle name, and I just decided to go with it and stop trying to sound and be like everybody else in the industry. You know, with the kind of look that I have, if I use a name like Crisio and you don't know what the person is from, you might think, okay, maybe it's a Westerner who's trying to do something in Africa. But if you hear the name Kwakwa and with the kind of brand I have, I think it tallies, and it will definitely take you back to where I'm from. And then by the time you realize, you're like, oh, so that's him. And there's a surprise in there. So I like to give bits and pieces of surprises here and there.
No, I've just been asking myself. I mean, of course, after Project Film West Africa,
yeah,
you were in Nigeria. I know you were signed on to a record label.
Yeah,
how was
trying to do my music and everything. Some of the songs took off, which we were hoping that it would have bloomed the rest of Africa, and then we take it from there. But God knows what he's doing. I'm thinking that he probably needed me back home, so things got a bit rough. But after the contract, I decided to go back into music full time. So I'm back into music full time, and I'm back to stay now.
I don't know, you know, whilst you were in Nigeria, sometimes when we are in Ghana, we say that, oh, Nigerians don't support Ghanaian music. Sometimes they go like, they come here, we receive them, but when we go there, it's not the same. Is that the case?
No, it's not. It's not at all. I think the topic of whether if Nigerians like Ghanaians, but if it is not moving, then you should sit back and check the content. That's what it boils down to.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So how long were you in Nigeria for?
I was in Nigeria for close to 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, close to 6 years. My contract was for 3 years, but before the contract, I was right after Project Friend. I moved back to Nigeria to pursue my music.
Now you're back in Ghana.
Yeah.
Things are doing things. Musicians are doing things. Everybody's doing their own thing.
You know, it's been a long time coming, and gradually we're getting there. We are not up to the standard or up to the point where we can actually kick back, relax, and enjoy the fruits of our labor yet. But what I can say is that we are not where we used to be. The music has grown, the industry is growing, and I'm hoping that in the next couple of years it will get bigger and better.
Wow. It will go bigger and bigger. Do you have any favorites at the moment?
At the moment, one person that I look at a lot is Kim Promise. I don't like to follow the trend. I don't like to do what everybody else has done before. I like to stand out. I like to be authentic. So Kim Promise is doing that, and I respect him for that.
Have you met him?
No, not yet. I've not met him yet. I've not spoken to him yet.
I think he's in London probably.
When he gets back, definitely. I'd love to.
You're hoping to work with him?
Yeah, for sure. I'm hoping to work with everybody and anybody. So long as the content is good, so long as the actor is very talented, I'm down for it. Why not?
All right. Now, let me just let our viewers know something, and then when we come back, we'll definitely continue the conversation.
Okay.
So now, if you did not know, rapper D Black, or should I say the Enjoyment Minister, is currently on a tour in East Africa. He's really having a good time. Kenya, Tanzania, and he's been telling us that people love Ghanaian music. People are enjoying Ghanaian music, and he said he was well received there. In fact, he had the opportunity to also meet the High Commissioner in Kenya. And let's take a look at how it all happened over there. But of course, they took some lovely pictures, and we know that D Black and his team are having a good time. And to some of your colleagues, have you been in touch with them? I mean,
yeah, I'm constantly in touch with Cassie.
Okay.
Constantly. I'm constantly in touch with Episode, with Jupiter, with a whole lot of the boys. I'm still in contact with them. Episode was in Nigeria the other time, and it was a blast. We spent like, I think about 3 weeks straight, and it was amazing. I still keep contacts with them, and I'm hoping that the work that we have piled up will pick up, and then we can be able to lift the flag of Ghana even higher.
At the moment, do you have any projects you've worked on?
Yes, I have a new one out right now titled Problem. The video came out last Friday. I was in a situation, you know, it's a topic that has, like, people can relate to. You know, it's an everyday thing. That have you ever been in a situation where you were in a relationship, you weren't expecting to go too far, but at the end of the day you got stuck in? You ever been there before? Yes, that's what I'm talking about. It's exactly what I'm talking about, and a lot of guys go through that. And because the reason why I made a music about it is because after I went through it, a friend of mine also went through it, and I'm like, oh, this is like a thing that happens. So if it is a thing that happens, then I should be able to talk about it for people to know that this is normal for you to fall into that kind of situation, and it's not always bad. Do you get me? It's not always bad, because me, for instance, it happened like that and it went good for me. So it's not always bad. I mean, it is what it is. But Problem is a beautiful song. WAAKWA. So it's Official Kwakwa together on all social media platforms.
Okay.
It's everywhere, Official Kwakwa. So if you go on, even if you go on Facebook, it's still Official Kwakwa. You find me there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So whilst you're out there looking for Kwakwa, and before I let you go, I'd like to have a feel of Problem.
Ah.
I mean, a line or two
right?
would do me good. I mean.
Okay.
Shorty no here waiting and talk. The man about mommy I go bonito. She traveled from UK all the way to Ghana just to uncover my day, lily. She need to find the thing I don't know, lily. She says she love my I don't live. What feeling, so I feel it. See Problem, I just never tell me what me feel. I need to turn down there. Shorty says she know I'm worried. She says she wants to stay. We need to turn down there. Problem, I just never tell me what me feel. Need to turn down there. Shorty says she know I'm worried. She says she wants to stay. We need to turn down there. Well, you're wicked. We catch her myself back for visit. Oh, yes, a biscuit. I'm not animalistic. You in your papa's stick, girl. Confusing me, a mistake, girl. Be like you that big. Oh, the son of what you come
I'm going to enjoy the music all by myself. So all I want to do is thank you so much for watching. You're back here same time here on the Joy News channel. Until then, remember he's now Kwakwa. Listen, when you see him anywhere, call him Kwakwa. But when you call him Chris, he'll respond, but he just remind you. My name is Doreen Adi, and of course, this has been Let's Talk Showbiz. A very big thank you to you, Ike, and of course, Koma. Enjoy your evening.